Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. CNBC TV 18. Adobe present Experience Makers.
Hello and welcome to CNBC TV 18 and Adobe present Experience Makers. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan, and today I will engage in a conversation with technology leaders from diverse brands on driving ROI through personalization and customer centricity. Well, to set the context, as businesses become more customer-centric to succeed in a competitive marketplace, the need to truly understand their customers' ever-changing demands and expectations, that comes into focus to retain them. But while an organization invests to improve customer experience, proving that return on such investments becomes key to sustain customer-centric initiatives in the long run. So, what's the best way to manage this balancing act? Let's find out from our panel featuring the likes of Venu Juwala, Senior Director and Country Manager at Adobe; Gary Makpati, CIO of Butterfly Gandhimati Appliances at Crompton Greaves Consumer Electricals; Anirudh Mehta, CIO and Head of IT at Prince Pipes and Fittings; and Praveen Srikhande, Chief Digital and Information Officer at Aditya Birla Fashion at Retail. Gentlemen, great to have you on board, Experience Makers, and looking forward to learn from each of you as to how CX can be truly a game changer for the customers of today and the enterprises of today and tomorrow. So on that note, Gary, let me start with you to sort of understand the foundational building blocks which are necessary for any organizations to do CX the right way. Your thoughts on that?
See, the impact of the COVID, it was so big, so it impact that it forced all of us, to change, go in the digital transformation way on that. So I believe any organization, if they want to survive in today's world and they want to grow, they must transform the entire business using digital transformation on that. So from the customer centricity, the point which you're talking about on that. So this is a game changer, right, which can positively impact the company top line and also improve the bottom line, right? And it not only does that, it also builds the stronger relationship, right, with the customers. And it can improve the customer satisfaction, the customer retention, and other factors on that. By saying that, it is also very important to understand who are your customers. In our sector, the main customer distributors are there, dealers, retailers are there, and end consumers are there. So you build the entire policy, accordingly, these customers on that. Plus, we have also customer on the e-com and MOR customers are there, right? So the pillars to build the customer centricity, so there are few of them are there. First, you need to understand the customer really well, by driving the data, and getting the data insights on that. In our case, we have a primary data from the sales side, from our system. We also have a secondary data, which is available, from distributors are there. And also we have our competitor data is available from market. And so, and also social economy. From a social data, we also have that data. So if you're able to integrate, all this data and then understand what customer needs and what preferences has, you are able to understand the customer better beyond that. So that is one of the key pillars is there. The second is a personalization and the customization. So we have so much data, the customer very well. You customize the information the way you want and the way the customer wants on that. So we can tailor-make the information by the customer on that. That really helps them to understand the customer better. And the third point, a third pillar is that you need to proactively customer support. You can use AI chatbots and other things are there, where the service is available 24/7. The customer can interact with the business when he wants on that. After that, we have so many different channels out there. So we should give him the seamless omni-channel experience.
All right, let's move the conversation forward to bring in the value question. Praveen, I'll come to you for this. Considering we've understood the four pillars which make up for customer centricity, how do you devise CX programs that continuously demonstrate value? Because that's the key question to sustaining that momentum. Your thoughts on that?
So in our case, which is primarily a B2C business, in a way, the demonstration of value is far easier, right? So Today, when our customer touch points for our business are largely in stores and now more
It's
and more
phygital.
online. Yeah, it's phygital. And it's very clear that whether a customer's experience in store translates into a sale or not, and we are constantly tracking that. I mean, that's a very important parameter, KPI, that we are monitoring, whether it's offline or online. In an offline store, in the past, your data points were few. You were largely dependent on tracking customer walk-ins, walkouts, and then linking that to your actual conversions to sale, and then using that to define how the customer is behaving. We also used to run today a NPS program. So pretty much every customer that is in the store, we take feedback from them post-purchase, and then we also call them a month later to get feedback on how the product experience is, for most of our leading brands. So those are all the customer touch points where we are getting feedback, and this ensures that we are always knowing what the customers are feeling. So if a customers have walked into stores and not found the product they were looking for, we take that feedback, and then that helps us to decide what should be the product mix that goes into a store, and reach out to customers separately to see how we can address the gap.
I want to extend this discussion and Anirudh, bring you in for your thoughts on this, because if I split a typical customer journey into 5 phases, right? There's awareness, consideration, purchase, experience, and loyalty. So CX works on different levels at each of those stages. Calculating the ROI of CX, what are your highlights on that?
See, traditional way of calculating ROI is one thing that we always used to do is the cost versus the income and divided by the total investment. But now ROI has changed, or the CX definition is also evolving today. Today, CX is not just an in-store experience or my end product experience. Today, CX is a complete end-to-end journey. I'll take an example of one application which most of us are today using is MyGate. For example, MyGate today was given to our societies for free. All of us were using it, and we are very happy using it. None of us questioned it. If you see the minor changes which have started happening in MyGate today, specifically like as soon as your Zepto guy or the Zomato delivery guy moves out with your parcel, you get a notification saying, do you want to give him or her a direct entry within your society? And when you say yes, it's a seamless entry for so there a CX is where I'm pretty much sure whom I'm going to get inside the society and I'm going to get my delivery. But in terms of a overall value chain where the CX is going to hit is where MyGate is giving that information to a Zomato, Zepto, Amazon or Flipkart for a cross-platform data is where they say we'll reduce our delivery time by 20%. That's where the fine-tuning in CX comes.
If you play data right, all these opportunities.
Exactly, because what am I doing is I'm going to give you that delivery, I'm going to deliver to your place, but where am I changing that minute experience which clicks and which registers in the human brain? That's where MyGate is creating a completely different experience with a completely different business model. Although it is hitting CX to the right chords, but as the end consumer, I'm not realizing it, but it's going on. And that's where it's gaining, So I would always say, the measurement of CX should be the final outcome and not the journey.
All right. I'll take that forward and bring you in, Venu, for your enablement perspective, since this is CX is a journey and not the destination. So from your perspective, how important is customer centricity, since we're in the age of personalization? How important is customer centricity to deliver a truly compelling experience for companies of various shapes and sizes, and they can be legacy or DNBs and so on and so forth? And what are the challenges which organizations are typically facing, especially in this hyper-personalization journey? Because everyone wants their product and customer relationship to feel very engaging, authentic, and meaningful, but it's not as easy as it looks. Your take on this?
So look, I think Gary spoke about how pandemic was the inflection point, and the digital behavior of both people at large and enterprises changed significantly. People became more digital savvy, adoption rates went up. Enterprises also have started reinventing and they have gone digital. Now, there are two threads there, right? During the last 3-4 years, you've seen a mushrooming of D2C tech startups who are born on the cloud, digital only, who done extremely well, they're very nimble, agile, and they have been able to master this art. But during the same phase, we've also seen the legacy businesses who are traditionally in the brick and mortar also take the ride on the digital, and they're mostly phygital. Now, what this has done is there's a surge of content and communication to consumers, which is actually an overload at this point of time, right? Now, what differentiates a successful brand from the other brands? A recent study that Adobe did said that 82% of consumers said they will prefer to buy from a brand which is personal, or their experience is more personalized than others, which means there is more propensity to buy from a brand which is more personal, right? Now, that is the reason why I've seen all the colleagues here talk about why hyper-personalization is extremely important, and we speak about it in a slightly different terminology. We call it hyper-personalization at scale, because it's easy to do it with 10, 50, 100 clients, but then you have 10 million clients. How do you do hyper-personalization one-to-one for 10 million? It happens only at scale, and that's when tech plays. But the point you mentioned about customer centricity, a lot of the enterprises actually travel the journey into how do you get to hyper-personalization, tech, process, a lot of it. But some of the organizations who have evolved from brick and mortar, getting into phygital, still have a product or their business model at the center, and the customer revolves around them. The day we bring customer in the center and the business process goes around, right, to meet the customer's journey requirements, to make it easy and get great experience. And that's when the real men will get separated from the boys and the customer centricity wins there.
All right, time to take our first pit stop here on Adobe Experience Makers. But stay tuned, we'll see you on the finishing line of this short break.
CNBC TV 18, Adobe present Experience Makers. CNBC TV 18, Adobe present Experience Makers.
Welcome back to CNBC TV 18 and Adobe present Experience Makers, where you get a ringside view of how brands are walking the tightrope between customer centricity and ROI. Let's dive right back into the conversation with our leaders on the panel. All right, let's look at some of the finer points. Aniruddha, I'll come to you for that, because content management and workflow, it's seriously underrated in this regard. So what are the challenges, first, and what can be done to drive up efficiencies in this regard? Taking forward some of the points Venu mentioned.
I think this is a day-to-day example which I will take over here, because as all of us, we're speaking about data, and end of the day, we are using data. That is content. How do we manage that? A simple example is, when we visit a doctor, we see a lot of medical reps waiting outside the doctor's cabin to, probably, show some new drugs, or say, continue with the prescriptions that you're doing. One of my previous organizations, what we realized is we have somewhere around 6 lakh doctors on the map which we are meeting, a lot of hospitals, a lot of chemists, and we cater to somewhere around 20 to 22 divisions across the therapies as such. Now, for a general physician, there might be 2 or 3 divisions meeting them. And what data says is a rep typical engagement with a doctor is a max of 1 minute. How do you make that more effective? Again, that is customer experience. Now, when a rep goes and meets a doctor as derma or as opthal, it's a therapy going and meeting, but it's not the organization which is going and meeting the doctor. And when we realize that, I travel across India, pan-India, with these reps to actually study, what are these nitty-gritties before actually implementing a tech solution for them. What I realized is these reps are just pushing the therapy and not going and meeting the doctor as the organization. And there was always a disconnect, because there are multiple reps meeting the doctor and the registration does not happen. After I came back, what I realized is what he clearly said: make doctor the center of the universe. I go and meet the doctor as the organization. A simple change in my reporting system is there is all data regarding the doctor available to all the reps irrespective of the therapy. So when I'm going to go and meet the doctor, when I say I just have 1 minute, but that 30 minutes or 45 minutes of waiting time outside the doctor, I can see my CRM in my mobile phone. And what I get to know is what was the last discussion with the doctor, which therapy discussed, what did the doctor ask for, or some details of the discussion. And there he starts the discussion with the doctor saying, in the last discussion you had with this rep, this was what was discussed. This is something which is still in process. This is something which we have ready and we're going to deliver to you.
You already addressed the pain point rather than asking the doctor, what can we do for you?
Exactly. That started the engagement, and the doctor felt, okay, fine, he's addressing what I need. There I created a wow factor for the doctor with just a minor change. That's where the content management and the workflow come in. So challenge of getting a content management on the workflow is not high, but actually implementing with the fine tuning is much more important.
All right. Now, while all these experiences, in a sense, they sound wonderful and magical, but let's not forget, as Venu mentioned, it needs to be company thinking of keeping customer at the center versus product, right? Now, I want to bring in this aspect of executive sponsorship, and Praveen, getting your thoughts on this, because while we see all these possibilities and how they can influence the growth of a system, the question is also key stakeholders, your company CEO, kind of buying into this idea of customer centricity using digital tools. And the question is, how do you do it effectively as technology leaders in your respective enterprises? So maybe you can share some lessons from the trenches as to how you evangelized and convinced senior leadership to really, really leverage technology for customer centricity. What would you have to say?
So again, I think we're going back to what changed in COVID, right? So we suddenly saw a big shift from traditional retail to online retail, right? And there were months when the only channel open was online. So the value in a way came up front that when you're dealing with the customer online, your touch points are very different. Your ability to track journey is very different, and use that, leverage that information to deliver value. Now, converting into value, the tracking the funnel, as I said earlier, is very important. Now, the moment you see that your investment in customer experience, whatever it is, personalization, is driving better conversions, customers spending more time on the site, right? Your basket size is improving. So these are clear KPIs which we are tracking from a business perspective. So as long as you're driving those KPIs effectively, right, you can convince the manager.
Gary, let me come to you. Any misconceptions we are facing or looking at when we talk about the ROI of CX? What are some of the myths that you would like to bust?
I feel there are 5 or 6 are there. One is, it gives immediate ROI. So that is not a case. It takes its own time. It is not easy to do that. And the another misconception is, you can easily measurable, direct measurable. So it's not the case on that. And also, it is not people see as a project. You have a start time and you started and ended. It's not like that. It's a continuous process. So you have to keep evolving, keep getting the feedback, keep improving on it. So it's not a one time on that. And also, I've seen people see as the cost reduction project. So it's not like that. So it helps you to improve the other parameters. The customer life value, the values is there. The customer satisfaction is there, right? So it helps in other parameters on that. And the last one which I see, it is underestimating the power of the customer retention and loyalty, like a repeat orders from there. So if you're able to retain the customer, he will keep giving you orders. So these are I feel that, 5 are the misconceptions.
Venu, let me come to you and understand from you how Adobe is helping companies sort of maximize their customer experience, the factor of emotion, the factor of authenticity, and how is it improving ROI using technologies and tools at its disposal? Because you guys are at the forefront of innovation, especially when we look at experience for customers today. You were early in the game. So how has that game progressed? Give us some customer use cases if you can, and broadly tell us the value that Adobe is bringing to the table for businesses.
Sure, I think interesting question, and reflecting back on what some of the other panelists have said. See, hyper-personalization is a given, right? It's a table stakes, and clients are looking at what brands are giving to them in terms of experiences. So all of that can be done, but there's one key element which is technology, which really powers some of this to be able to deliver this at scale, right? I would broadly classify them into 3 pillars. The first, and I touched upon it earlier, is about content. Now, we as Indians are suckers for great content, and I would say we are great at delivering content and also consuming content.
This itself is one example.
Exactly, right? And I would say managing content, like how Anirudh said, is not very easy, right? There's millions of pieces of content that keeps getting created. How do you monetize that? How do you curate that? How do you reuse them and be able to deliver better ROI? And that's where what Adobe did was build the best content supply chain platform where you create, curate, reuse, and deliver it on a personalized basis to millions of clients at the same time, right? So that's the content supply chain to deliver great experiences through content to your clients. That's the first piece of technology that we have built. The second is all about how do you enhance that experience and take the client to the journey, right? Once you get the client on board your digital assets, whether it's on app or web or any other piece of digital asset, how do you then take them through the journey, which is of great experience and also results in a conversion at the end of the day, right? That's the journey which we help by helping clients build personalized customer journeys, which can start anywhere and end towards where you want, which is the cash register, right? So you basically help organizations build that customer journey. And that's the piece that we've built on the second piece, right? The last is obviously about how do you monetize this? And that's where we talk about experience-led commerce. And again, there are tons of commerce platforms. We talk about a lot of them. But how do you enhance the customer's experience right towards the end of the customer journey when they're actually making up their mind and create that wow moment for them to be able to make the decision and buy your product or service, right? And that's where we marry content, which is the first one, back again with commerce and create a great content experience-led commerce. And that's the third pillar which really helps bring this whole piece together. Now, what this does is help you, one, personalize, which is the second element, help latch on to as many consumers as possible onto your digital assets, and then convert them. This, which means that by making these investments in technology, you're able to make laser-focused, targeted campaigns and be able to convert more. And study says that roughly, when we adopt tech to drive hyper-personalization and to deliver great experiences, the customer lifetime value increases by almost 1.5x than what from the others.
Well, gentlemen, it's been a wonderful conversation. I'd love to know what the audience thinks about this conversation. Have they bought into the topping points? But we've run out of time. On that note, it's time to wrap up this brainstorm on driving ROI through personalization and customer centricity. I'd like to thank all of our featured guests here for joining us in this conversation. And of course, thank you to our viewers for tuning in. Till next time, this is your host, Gautam Srinivasan, signing off. Have a great day.
CNBC TV 18, Adobe present Experience Makers. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.